You followed the rules. You stayed in your lane. You were reliable, reasonable, easy to work with, and you told yourself that was the right way to operate. You did not make waves. You did not demand more than you were given. You were patient because you believed patience was a virtue, and eventually the room would recognize what you brought to it. It never did. And somewhere in the back of your mind, quiet at first, then louder, a question started forming. Not about the people who passed you, not about the system that overlooked you, about yourself. What if you were never playing to your ceiling? What if everything you were taught about staying humble, staying grateful, staying manageable was exactly what kept you from becoming what you were actually capable of? There is a reason most men never reach their real potential. It is not lack of talent. It is not lack of effort. It is something far more subtle and far more damaging. They were trained to stay within a range that made other people comfortable. From the time they were young, the message was consistent. Do not want too much. Do not push too hard. Be a team player. Be humble. Be grateful for what you have. These are not entirely bad lessons, but they were never designed to build powerful men. They were designed to build manageable ones. Machiavelli understood this distinction clearly. He observed that the men who stayed within the limits others set for them did not do so because they lacked ambition. They did so because they had been convinced that ambition itself was dangerous, that wanting more was somehow wrong. It is not wrong. It is the most natural thing a capable man can feel. Most men have the wrong picture of power. They think it looks like aggression, volume, dominance, the loudest man in the room. That is not power, that is noise, and noise is easy to manage. Real power, the kind Machiavelli spent his life studying, is quiet. It is self-contained. It does not need the room's approval because it is not asking the room for anything. The Stoics called it the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it as the one thing no external force could touch: the man's own mind, his own standard, his own judgment. A man operating from that place does not react to every provocation. He does not chase recognition. He does not explain himself to people who have already decided. He moves with precision because he knows exactly what he is building, and he does not need your permission to build it. That is the man they cannot manage. That is the man they did not expect you to become. There are specific things that change when a man steps into real power, not all at once, quietly, one shift at a time. The first shift is silence. He stops filling every space with explanation and justification. He says what needs to be said and nothing more. Silence stops being awkward and starts being a tool. The second shift is standards. He stops accepting the level of treatment he used to tolerate, not with anger, without announcement. He simply raises the floor and stops responding to anything below it. The third shift is direction. He stops waiting for someone to recognize his value and starts building something that makes the recognition irrelevant. His energy goes inward and forward, never sideways chasing approval from people who were never going to give it. The fourth shift is time. He becomes ruthless about where it goes, because a man who has wasted years being manageable understands better than anyone what time actually costs. Machiavelli wrote that a man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must come to ruin among so many who are not good. That is not a license for cruelty. It is a warning against naivety. What he was saying is this: the world does not reward goodness for its own sake. It rewards capability, clarity, the willingness to act decisively when others hesitate. The powerful man in Machiavelli's world was not the most aggressive. He was the most prepared. He had already considered every scenario. He had already decided what he would and would not accept. And because he had done that work internally, no one could surprise him. No one could use uncertainty against him. No one could move him from a position he had already chosen to hold. That preparation is not something you are born with. It is something you build deliberately, every day. If you are done waiting to be recognized for what you already know you are capable of, subscribe. What we are building here is not for everyone, but it is exactly for you. Here is the truth that most men feel but few will say out loud. The pain of being used fades. The pain of betrayal fades. Time dulls those edges. What does not fade is regret. The specific weight of looking back at years spent playing small, staying manageable, waiting for a room to recognize you that was never going to. Regret is the worst pain a man can carry because, unlike betrayal, unlike loss, it belongs entirely to him. No one else put it there. The Stoics were ruthless about this. They practiced what they called memento mori, the constant awareness that time is finite and moves in one direction, not to become morbid, to become urgent. A man who truly understands that his time is limited does not waste another year being less than he is capable of. He does not wait. He does not ask permission. He starts now and he does not look back. The version of you that stayed in his lane, explained himself, waited patiently for what he deserved. That man was never the ceiling. He was the floor. What you are capable of is not something they got to define. It was never in their power to grant it or take it away. They could only delay it, and only for as long as you allowed them to. Machiavelli wrote that there is no avoiding war, only postponing it to your disadvantage. The same is true of this. There is no avoiding the moment when a man finally decides to become what he was capable of all along, only postponing it. And postponing it has a cost. The man on the other side of that decision is not louder, not angrier, not harder. He is simply no longer available to be used, no longer readable, no longer waiting. He already knows what he is, and he has stopped asking anyone else to confirm it. You have spent enough time being exactly what other people needed you to be, staying within a range that made the room comfortable, performing patience while men with less to offer moved past you because they simply decided to stop waiting. And the truth that has been sitting quietly in the back of your mind through all of it is not that you were unlucky or overlooked or came up short. The truth is that you were more than what you showed them, more than what the room was built to hold, more than what the version of you that followed all the rules was ever going to be allowed to become. And that truth is not a wound. It is the most valuable thing you own, because a man who finally sees his own ceiling clearly is a man who is done living beneath it, and the power that has been waiting on the other side of that clarity is not something that needs to be announced or performed or explained to anyone. It simply moves with precision, with purpose, with the quiet certainty of a man who no longer needs the room's permission to be exactly what he was always capable of being. And if you are ready to stop postponing that, you are in the right place, and we are just getting started. You already know what you are. Finally, ruthless.